cheating mystery woman! I was running errands and stopped by the fish store to buy some live brine for the critters in my saltwater tank. While they were packing the brine, I wandered the aisles and looked at the merchandise they had. I had just lost my Cuban hog and was looking for something to replace him when I noticed a girl at the front of the store. She was short, maybe 4 feet 7 inches or so, and couldn't see the fish on the upper level of the aquariums. She would walk up to an aquarium, jump up to see what was in the top tank, and then move on to the next one. As she made her way toward me, I saw that she was not a little girl, but a short woman. A short woman with a killer body. A waist I could probably wrap my arms around. A beautiful body, a good rack, and a great face. I was known to be an impulsive person, so I moved to her from behind, and the next time she jumped up, put my hands on her waist, lifted her up while lowering myself, and when I stood up, she was sitting on my shoulders. Although I could not see her, as she was behind my head, I said, "You're tiring me with your jumping. Just tell me where you want to go." To my surprise, she didn't start hitting me over the head with her purse. Instead, a laughing voice said, "Walk down this aisle and then the other two and I'll see everything." Over the next 10 minutes, I walked her down the entire aisle. She looked in all the overhead receptacles and finally said I could put her down. I lowered her to the ground and she said, "That was interesting. Do you know that you are the only man who has held me on his shoulders since I married my husband?" And then, almost at the end, she added, "And even he doesn't do it very often?" I grinned and said, "Too bad you weren't wearing a skirt. If you had been wearing a skirt, I would still have done it, but I would have looked the other way." She made a grimace. Yeah. You guys are all good talk, but none of you ever follow through." The conversation was interesting and I wanted to continue it, so I said, "Buy you a cup of coffee at Lucy's?" Lucy's coffee shop was next door to the fish store. She looked at her watch and replied, "Sure, why not? I have time for a cup." We got our coffees, sat down at a table at the back of the hall, and she asked, "Can you tell me what causes men to hint the most at the things they actually want to do the least?" I looked at her, trying to figure out what she was getting at, and she continued, "Oh, I know I shouldn't have been Little Miss Smart Mouth, but then you didn't hesitate to jump in with the face the other way comment. I mean, men say that all the time until you ask them to do it, and then they run the other way and hide." I shrugged. "You've just been unlucky and met the wrong guys." She laughed briefly. "You know how many guys I've known who said something like, 'She's so good she can ask me for anything anytime,' or 'She's too good to date a guy like me.'" Her words caught me off guard, and I quickly looked around to see if anyone was close enough to hear us. She didn't seem to notice anything and continued, "Guys know that women want it, so they make statements like that, thinking to gain a woman's favor, and when they succeed, they suddenly forget what they said." I shrugged again. "I can't speak for all men, only myself." She grinned wickedly. "And if you speak for yourself, you do it all the time, right?" "Every chance I get." "How about right now? I've got a van with smoked glass right outside. Want to prove it to me?" I shook my head no, and she grinned. "I knew it. You're just like the rest of them. You just talk, not act." I looked her straight in the eye. "Just because I don't want to risk doing it in public doesn't mean I won't do it. If you want to prove me wrong, follow me home and see what I'm willing to do in the privacy of my own bedroom." She looked at her watch and said, "I can't. I have to pick up my husband in half an hour." "Right. Who's backing out now?" She looked at me with a long look and said, "Give me your address." I wrote it down and gave it to her. "My phone number is on there too, in case you get lost." We walked out of the cafe together, and I watched her get into her van and drive away. It was an interesting meeting, and we hadn't even introduced ourselves to each other. She was a feisty girl, and I was sorry I would never see her again. 3 days later, I had just gotten home from work and was feeding the fish when the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there she stood. She was wearing a dress and high-heeled shoes and asked if she could come in. I stepped aside and let her come in, closed the door and turned to face her. She lifted her skirt and showed me that she wasn't wearing anything. "I'm ready, are you?" I stared at her for a minute and then said, "Do you hate your marriage so much that you want to risk ruining it?" She gave me the same grin she'd given me in the coffee shop. "I knew you'd back out. I was so sure of it that when I got dressed to leave the house, I let my husband have sex with me." She lowered her skirt and turned to leave, and I said, "Wow. I didn't say I wouldn't, I was just curious. It's not every day I get a gorgeous little pocket rocket like you in my hands. Take off your dress. I want you without it, except for the heels." For the first time, she looked unsure, almost frightened, and I began to think that maybe she was a naughty girl who was up for a game and didn't expect to be denied. "But you can't. My husband just made love to me." I grinned. "That just adds to the flavor, sweetheart," and took her hand and led her into the bedroom. I helped her take off her dress and made her lie down on the bed. "Aren't you going to take your clothes off?" she asked. "No, I don't need to take off my clothes to caress your body. If you ask me to have sex with you when I'm done, then I'll take my clothes off." There was no way I was going to let her leave my apartment with the words, "I told you so." Finally, she pushed me away and asked me to have sex with her. I started having sex, and she freaked out. If anyone was outside my window looking in, they'd probably call the police. I'm 61 and she's 4 feet tall, and from the way she was kicking and screaming, I'm sure they would have thought I was taking advantage of the kid. But she was very sure she wasn't a baby. Her nails dug into me. I had claw marks on my body for days. After that, I rolled onto the bed, and for 2 minutes we lay side by side on the bed, neither of us saying anything, just staring at the ceiling. Finally, she said, "That was really strong. Can we do it again?" I honestly answered, "I don't know." She giggled. "We'll see, won't we?" She moved over to me, and it took her a good 10 minutes of working on my body before she could get me to have sex with her again. Our third bout lasted almost 20 minutes. The lady drained me dry. I walked her to the front door, fully expecting to never see her again, but she turned around, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed me. When we broke the kiss, she asked, "Same time tomorrow?" I was genuinely surprised, and I guess she could see it in my face. Walking away, she asked me, "So what time tomorrow?" I smiled broadly and told her I was getting home from work around 4:30, and she said she would wait for me here. That was 6 months ago, and since then she's been coming to see me an average of 3 times a week. She especially likes to come to me after making love to her husband. One time, her husband went out of town for a week, and I spent the entire week in her bed. Slowly having sex with her while she was on the phone with him was one of the biggest highs of my life. One day she suggested I get another lover so I'd have something to save her, and I told her that if she was serious, I knew someone who would be happy to help. She told me to set it up, and I think it will happen sometime next week. I still don't know her name, and when I asked, she said it didn't matter. Just call me mystery woman or cheater or your married cheater, just please don't stop making love to me. I am very pleased to say that I did. The end! Subscribe to my channel. Thank you!